Welcome to today's 1025 video. Years ago, before I entered into the ministry, I worked for a large corporation, and every day it was the same group of us officers that would get together for lunch that day, and we'd tell various stories and talk about work and things like that. And one day, one of the guys came and he said, "I've just got to share this story with you that's happened in our neighborhood." He said, "We had a guy down the street that went out a couple of months ago and he bought one of the new Toyota Prius hybrids that had come out. And he says, every time we've been running into this guy, he's been bragging about the fact that he's getting 52 miles to the gallon with his new Prius. Or a week later, he'd say, I'm up to 53 miles to the gallon or whatever." And he said he was bragging and encouraging all of us to go out and to buy Priuses instead of the gas-guzzling vehicles that we had. And he said one neighbor decided to play a trick on the guy that had just bought the new Prius. And he said in the evening after the fella had gone into his house, he said he snuck into his yard and he poured an extra gallon of gas into the guy's Prius. So a few days later, when his friend went to fill the Prius, now he was getting 63 miles to the gallon. So he rushed into work and bragged that now he's getting 63. So that other neighbor a week later decided to go and add 2 gallons of gas to his Prius. And a couple of days later, when the fella filled up his tank, he was getting 74 or 76, I don't know, incredible mileage. And so then the friend decided just to totally stop. And so the next time the guy filled his tank, he was back down to 50 miles per gallon. And so he drove again for a week and refilled it, and still only getting 50. He was so upset, he brought it into the Toyota dealer and he said, something's wrong. He said, when I first got the car, it was getting 50 miles to the gallon, but then it went into the 60s and even went into the 70s, but now it's dropped down into the 50s. You've got to fix what's wrong with it. So they looked at it and there's nothing wrong. And the guy drove it again and he only got 50 miles to the gallon. He ended up selling his Prius. He was so discouraged that he was only getting 50 miles to the gallon when his perspective was saying he should be getting 60 or 70 or more. What things in your life might you be looking at from the wrong perspective? As we look at God's word here this morning we see that we're all guilty of committing these types of wrongdoings. All of us jump to false conclusions from time to time here, often because we're missing key information here. And sometimes we're the victims of false information, where somebody spreads rumors or gossip about us that aren't true. It's because they're missing some of the facts here. But sometimes we're the source of false information because we've heard something and jumped to a conclusion and jumped to the wrong perspective. But Jesus says this in Matthew chapter 18. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, take 1 or 2 others along, so that in every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. This is one of the beauties of belonging to a healthy church. If there's wrong conclusions based on bad perspectives, we can go to the person that's at source for that perspective and offer them the truth and encouragement here. We're encouraged in our families, with our neighbors, or whatever, to talk to people who might be upsetting us here. And this is a growing problem in today's culture here, where so many people are communicating by texting or emailing each other instead of speaking through their voices. This is a blessing now from the COVID virus, that we have that opportunity more to talk to one another here. My wife and I, we went out and bought a Prius 8 years ago. We're thrilled with 52 miles to the gallon. I wouldn't sell it if the gas mileage didn't go higher, because that's not the correct perspective here. So my friends, don't change things in your life that don't need changing because you've got the wrong perspective. Follow Jesus' words here. Talk these things through and listen here. By the way, I'm on my second Prius now. I'm hoping for more gas mileage in the future, but I'll settle for what we get. May God grant you perspective that's accurate and brings you peace. Amen.